At 6:30, the meeting will come to order. I want to welcome you to the Pasco School Board meeting this evening. Thank you for attending and for your interest in Pasco Public Schools. Understand that while it may appear that the board is moving quickly on important matters, there have been previous opportunities for discussions on issues either in earlier meetings, study sessions, or in board workshops, which are all open public meetings. Each director has had sufficient time to study the issues, ask questions, and obtain satisfactory information either from district staff or through their own independent research. As directors, we strive to understand all of the issues brought before us and to make decisions that we believe are in the best interest of all Pasco students and the taxpayers that provide funding. In an effort to expand availability of study sessions and board meeting proceedings and increase transparency, all of these board meetings and study sessions are recorded for broadcast on PSC TV, which is Charter Cable Channel 191. The study session and board recordings are also available on the school district's YouTube website. And then finally, we're fortunate to have 3 student board members to my left. There's only 2 of them in attendance tonight. One is excused. They cannot legally vote on issues, but they're an important part of our team and our decision-making process. They participate in many board activities and functions throughout the year and are vital in helping us keep our priority on putting students first and gaining student perspectives. Next, we'll have the flag salute. And we have here in attendance the principal from my children's school, Miss Barbara Pierce, Mark Twain.
President Lehrman, Assistant Superintendent Thornton, members of the board, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you some members of our Mark Twain Wildcat Associated student body.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah Rangel. I'm the ASB treasurer. This is my parents, Sabrina and Yuria Rangel, and my 2 sisters, Natalie and Gabby.
I'm Daisy, the ASB secretary, and I am here with my mom, Davida, my dad, Dustin, my aunt, Wendy, my grandma, Vicky, and my sister, Charlie.
Please rise and begin in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So can her family raise their family raise their hands just because we didn't know who you were? Okay. Oh, so nice to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for attending, and that's great that you guys are involved with your ASB student leadership. And we encourage all kids, all students that come in and visit us here, that when they're done with their elementary and middle school years and they hit high school, to apply for the student board representative positions, which are the 2 guys standing next to you there. They're in high school and they are student board reps that help, as I mentioned, provide us perspective. So thank you for showing up tonight. Next, Ms. Smith will call the roll.
Mr. Christensen?
Present.
Dr. Richardson?
Present.
Ms. Landon?
Excused.
Mr. Lerner?
Present.
Ms. Phillips?
Present.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Present.
Mr. Mendoza?
Present.
Mr. Mojica?
Excused. Next, we have special recognition presented by Ms. Leslie Call.
Good evening, President Lehrman, Assistant Superintendent Thornton, and members of the board. Each year in March, we have the honor of recognizing 2 very important groups. March 14th through 18th marks Classified School Employee Week, and March 14th through 20th is School Retirees Appreciation Week. And I guess the retirees get 2 extra days because they don't take the weekends off. I will begin with the classified employees, and I have a proclamation from the governor first. Whereas classified school employees are involved in nearly every aspect of education, maintaining buildings and grounds, preparing and serving meals, keeping school facilities clean and orderly, assisting in the classroom, performing and conducting research activities, providing information technology and media services, administrative support functions, safe transportation, a secure and healthy environment, and many other specialized services. And whereas these dedicated individuals deserve recognition and thanks for the outstanding work that they are doing for this state, their communities, and the students enrolled in Washington's public schools and universities. And whereas there are nearly 50,000 classified school employees working with and helping students in Washington universities and public schools. And whereas classified school employees are instrumental in the state's responsibility to educate all students. And whereas by supporting the learning environment, classified school employees are crucial partners with professors, teachers, parents, administrators, and school boards in our education system. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 14th through 18th, 2016 as Classified Public School Employee Week. And we have some representatives from our classified unions here to help us celebrate tonight. And so if you would please come forward as I call your names. We have Sue Bumpus from the Public School Employees Paraeducators. Jasmine Bell from the Public School Employees Secretaries, Clerks, and Specialists. Cheryl Caldwell from the Public School Employees Nutrition Services. Tamara Pearson from the International Union of Operating Engineers Bus Drivers. Monica Cassis from the International Union of Operating Engineers Maintenance and Custodial. Scott Kelleher from the International Union of Operating Engineers Maintenance and Custodial. And Travis Bowman from the International Union of Operating Engineers Mechanics. Every hour of a student's day and well beyond is made better by these hardworking, caring professionals and the more than 900 classified employees they represent. Together, they make sure our students get to and from school in vehicles that are safe and well-maintained. They make sure our students have the nutritious meals and snacks they need to keep their minds and bodies fueled and ready to learn. They deal with miles of paperwork to keep our schools on schedule, on budget, and on task. And they make sure our facilities are well cared for, beautiful, and worthy of Pasco pride. They nurture, mentor, and guide students to accomplish all they can and to be the best they can be. Our classified employees create an environment that fosters learning and shows our students and employees that they are treasured. Thank you to our classified employees for your hard work and dedication to the Pasco School District and the students we serve. And we will be honoring all of our classified employees next week with cakes, which will be delivered to all PSD buildings. And so please join me in thanking all of our classified employees.
You know, I'm going to say something while you guys, I just was thinking about all the classified. I have 5 kids right now being served by Pasco School District. And as I look through their educations, what you do is very important. And I'm grateful. At one point, my son wasn't very respectful of school property and broke something. And as we talked to the super, I guess I shouldn't admit all of my children's faults, but as I talked to the administration, we had him help a janitor for 3 days. And of all the things he remembers from junior high, that was a very important lesson that he learned. And so you were directly involved with that education. And I know having a clean classroom is so important to our kids and food science and food nutrition and keeping the grounds good. And then our paraeducators who work with my child with special needs on a daily basis. So I am very grateful for all the work you do. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. And I'd like to thank my lovely assistant, Valerie Smith, who's also a classified employee. that we honored a few years ago, and she's taking pictures for me tonight. So tonight we also have the privilege of honoring those who have already retired. Joining us this evening from the Benton Franklin School Retirees Association, and you guys have to come forward when I call your names too. We're going to take your picture too. Glenn Allison, Alice Allison, John Foskett had, I believe, hoped to be with us but was not able to make it. Jack Sonderman, Helen Bakshas, Elaine Banks, Rod Meineke, and we have, is Dottie Stevens here? Yes, Dottie, yes. Hi, Dottie. Dottie is the president of the Benton Franklin School Retirees Association. And there were a few people that I called who had hoped to be with us tonight, but they weren't able to make it. So let me tell you about these people. As volunteers, mentors, and friends of our schools, retirees continue to support our mission and the students of Pasco with their time, with their experience, and yes, their money. Each year, the Benton Franklin School Retirees Association provides small grants for teachers to use for classroom projects and materials. And I'd like to share this proclamation from Governor Inslee. Whereas the Washington State School Retirees Association recognizes all retired school employees, and whereas the WSSRA educates and assists retirees in meeting the special challenges retirement brings and works to improve their general welfare, and whereas the WSSRA aids in advancing education by supporting high educational standards, and whereas the WSSRA promotes group and individual involvement in charitable projects and activities, sponsors scholarships, and maintains interest and participates in educational and community activities, and whereas the WSSRA supports and encourages retired educators to remain active in the education profession through their volunteer activities associated with learning, now therefore I, J. Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 14th through 20th, 2016 as School Retirees Appreciation Week. So if you want to know what Pasco Pride is really all about, you don't have to look much further than the people we've honored here tonight. All of the employees past and present and what they represent. So please join me in a round of applause for both our classified staff and school retirees.
Thank you. And I was talking to one of the gentlemen here, Mr. Meineke, just out in the hall there briefly, and he was telling me that he came here. I don't think he'll be upset if I say this, but back in 1947, and he came from North Dakota. He's been here since then. So it just tells you how great the people in Pasco, where you have people move from all over the United States, sometimes the world, but mostly the United States. They come here, and they're not staying here for the climate or the environment. They're staying here because of the great people that do great things every day. So thank you, Mr. Meineke. Thank you, everyone else. And there's one other lady up there I recognize. I forget people's names sometimes, but usually not faces. I served on jury duty with her. She doesn't have to raise her hand if she doesn't want to. But couple weeks ago, Miss Allison, yes. So nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Also thank the school board for being partners with us and having a teacher retirement program, pre-retirement we have for all teachers that are planning on retiring. And we all retire eventually. And if they can come 2 or 3 times if they want. But Pasco has been a star in helping us put on our retirement that we have. We have as many as 200 people, 200 of our teachers that are there. And we have been able to use Pasco High, we've been able to use this building. And we do not charge the teachers for this, for them to come. And Pasco has not charged us for the use of the facility. So thank you very much, we appreciate all you do.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Open the floor up for a motion.
Skip that. What was the meeting date? Just get that here. So, Mr. President, I move to approve the regular meeting minutes for February 23rd, 2016.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from February 23rd, 2016. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carries. The regular meeting minutes from February 23rd, 2016 are approved. Next, we'll have the agenda review.
President Lehrman, we will be requesting an executive session this evening under RCW 4230-110-1B real estate, 4230-110-1G performance of a public employee, and 1I litigation.
Thank you. All right, in just a moment, I'll open up the microphone for audience comments. I would remind you that this is the regularly scheduled business meeting for the Pasco School Board of Directors. This is not an open dialogue for an open microphone for two-way dialogue. We will continue to provide two-way dialogue. We have a community forum to speak with the board. Will get posted on the website soon here. It'll be at the end of March, so keep your eyes open on that. Topic is being discussed still, and location, but keep your eyes open there if you would like to have two-way dialogue with the school board. We'll try to limit comments to 2 minutes. We don't have any folders here, but Ms. Flynn over there has the folders. When she holds up the yellow folder, that'll signal that you have 30 seconds remaining. When she holds up the red folder, your 2 minutes are up. Go ahead and finish the thought that you've started. Please do not continue on with other additional thoughts after that. And we would like you to stick to your 2 minutes. And if you would like to speak on a topic, that's fine. We're encouraging people not to give their 2 minutes to other people at this time. Thank you.
My name is Melissa Reed, and I'm here tonight as Parker's mom. Parker attends the special education pre-K program at McClintock. President Lehrman, administrators, board members, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. It's difficult for me to attend very many meetings, so I have been enjoying watching the study sessions on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. I watched the most recent broadcast that discussed the purchase of the senior center. It was my perception that the ultimate goal for the facility is to house special education pre-K. With the upheaval caused last year by the changes in McClintock, I understand the desire to keep programs together. I understand the professional benefits to having that program in one building. I get it. But I believe it will come at the expense of students. I need you to get what a day in the life of Parker is like. I need you to hear how detrimental transporting our weakest students across town would be to them and their families. After finally getting Parker settled at McClintock, with the upheaval surrounding that school a year ago, it's hard for him to go to school even in his own neighborhood, let alone across town. This is Parker. He's 3.5. He attends Miss Nicole Johnson's class at McClintock. Parker's whole world has expanded since starting preschool, and he's making gains by the day. I don't want to begin to think about how Parker's day would be negatively impacted by moving his program out of our neighborhood in West Pasco. We are under a time restraint on anything that goes haywire with Parker. For something as simple as his feeding tube coming out, I have 30 minutes to get to him to replace it. I drove the route from my house near Road 100 to the senior center today. Traffic was light, and it was 25 minutes from the moment I sat down in my car to the moment I touched the entrance door. That is too far. While preschool has greatly enriched his life, I would like to share a bit about what takes place behind the scenes at home to make his day run smoothly. An hour and a half before school begins, life's sights and sounds at home cease. Parker must rest and be in a peaceful, quiet surrounding so that he can regroup and have enough energy to make it through his school day. The work begins for Parker with his car ride to school. The sights, sounds, and excessive touching that goes into loading into the car and out of the car are enough to set him into a tailspin on most days. His teacher and his one-on-one paraeducator have reported that he does well holding it together most days, but he remains on a shortened schedule, shorter by 40 minutes from his peers, because it takes so much out of him to be at school. He just doesn't have the stamina to go the same length of time as his peers. I understand that Parker is just one student, but he is still a student nonetheless. I believe Parker and every special education student has a right to attend school in a building with typically developing peers. It is good for the special education students to be included, and it is good for the typically developing students to be exposed to people who are different from themselves. It is my great fear that purchasing this building and earmarking it for special education preschool will set a precedent that's not progressive, inclusive, or beneficial to Parker or his peers. In fact, I think it's downright discriminatory to participate in this type of segregation. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Reed. And thank you for bringing Parker. I'm glad that he's enjoying preschool and looks like an awesome little guy. All right, if there are no additional audience comments, we'll move on to communications, and we'll start down with Dr. Richardson.
Thank you. I just wanted to share that this month I'll be visiting the middle schools on March 10th at Stevens Middle School in the afternoon to visit with teachers and staff. On the 24th, McLaughlin Middle School, and on the 31st, Ochoa Middle School. So I look forward to senior schools and meeting with as many people as I can on those days. Thanks.
You know, I'm looking at the last 2 weeks and all the activities my kids were in, and school board, I haven't been able to do quite as much with school board this year. I have a baby, and she has been really sick. So even when I've scheduled times for her to go to a babysitter, I've had to call and cancel. But it hasn't stopped my work at home. And we do have several events also planned for the next couple of weeks, and babysitters lined up, and hopefully her health will stay intact. But I realized when I got on the school board that one of the great things I was bringing was being in the schools with my kids at all different ages, and sometimes that precludes. So my favorite thing is to be out with the principals, and I haven't got to do that quite as much as I have in the past and hope to be able to in the future. But I do want to thank you for all you're doing, and it's so exciting to have spring coming and spring sports and the spring fever that kids get that drive kids crazy but makes moms smile. So anyway, we're excited to where the school district is going and the exciting things that are happening right now.
Good evening, everybody. Over the past few weeks, Juan, Carson, and myself have been working on a survey to launch to our students, high school students, to better serve them. I just want to let you guys know we're trying hard to serve students to the best of our abilities. As well, a few days ago, I was notified that I am a finalist for the Gates Millennium Scholarship. So I'm very happy about that. Being able to get college paid for is a nice thing. And that's about it. I hope you're all doing good and keep it cool.
Good evening, everybody. So last Friday, I was able to go to the PHS talent show that we had. and that was great to watch some of the amazing talent we have at our own school, dancing, singing, a little bit of everything there. I would also like to announce for our school that this Thursday, the Crystal Apple Awards, and Miss Dietzen is nominated for an award. Friday, Pacific Lutheran University's Wind Ensemble is going to come and do a concert in the morning at 9 a.m. to 9:45. And we have 3 jazz and choir concerts next week. I'd also like to congratulate my good friend Abraham on Gates. That is amazing, and I'm very excited for all the great things he has in his future. So, yeah, I hope everyone's having a good few weeks since we last talked. Thank you.
2 weeks ago, I took a trip to Olympia with Superintendent Hill to visit with our legislators again. We've got some legislation. Well, one of the things we talked about was our request for capital funds for the Early Learning Center. And while we were there, we learned that we are in the House budget. Our request was $2.5 million, which we would match with $2.5 million of school funds. Now, we didn't get that. We did come out in the House budget for $500,000. We're not in the Senate budget yet. We're hoping to be in that Senate budget, but the good news, we're halfway there. Well, maybe we're a tenth of the way there because we're half of a fifth, or a fifth of a half, or something like that. So we've got a little ways to go there. We'll see how that works out. One of the things we did talk about with Senator Schessler and Senator Hewitt was the levee cliff that seems to be hung up in the Senate right now. And that does impact us to the tune of almost $3.5 million if they don't get that resolved. So we're hoping, we've been in contact with them and encouraging them to support that. We'll see how that goes. As far as local, was able to go to the Frost Science Fair and see those projects that those kids work on and just have so much fun presenting there. You never have enough time to get through and see all of them, but the ones that I did saw, I was pretty pleased with some of these young kids and the things that they're learning. Attended the Pasco Education Foundation fundraiser dinner, and much. That is an organization, I think, Scott, you were there. I think they said they've given out nearly $240,000 in scholarships in a very short period of time. So a great organization and well worth participating in and helping them in their efforts there. We've got many current and former educators that participated in that and give money to that. So, and I want to thank them. And I'm like these, just seeing these retired educators here and the contribution that they've made and still make to our district, both financially and in their personal time, is a great benefit to the district. Yesterday, I was able to attend the McClintock VIP Day, and I've been to VIP days before, but this one was a little different. We actually shadowed students and went to their class with them, and I was able to shadow a fourth grader at McClintock, and actually went to class and participated in some of their exercises there. And one of the things we did was a little spelling competition, and where you stand in a circle and you go around the room and spell the word. And I actually spelled the word right, so I was pretty pleased with myself. And then, I guess that's it. So thank you. Oh, just on that VIP day, I wanted to say that I think that's the first time I've been in the classroom and just observed our teachers. I mean, I've walked through classrooms and you spend 5 minutes in there with a group and you don't really get that involved. But yesterday I was able to spend a significant amount of time in the classroom with these students, watching what they do, and just, maybe these teachers aren't representative of all our teachers, but I am impressed with our teachers and grateful for the work that they do in helping our students. I work with young men in scouting, and I know they can be pretty rambunctious, but I was pleased with the behavior of these kids, the way that they paid attention. They're kids, and there was times when they were loud, but when it was time to go to work, and I don't know, hopefully that's reflective of our teachers and and the way that they teach in those classrooms, but I was impressed and want to thank those teachers and other teachers in our district who are making that effort. So thank you.
I also attended the Pasco Education Foundation with that Mr. Christensen did. Great foundation, and some kids got up and spoke, and they're not giving out huge scholarships from what I can see, but $1,000 or $2,000 to scholarship to local kids. For some kids, if it's not Bill Gates type money here, you're not going to go to, it's not going to make a dent in your Stanford education or something like that. But for some kids whose families don't go to college and are going to attend college, say locally at CBC, $1,000 or $2,000 I think can really help break down a perceived barrier that they may have towards the cost of that, and just get them in the door. So great things that they're doing, and I was honored to attend that. The last couple weeks and in the near future, we're going to be talking about facility needs, and we're going to be talking about the possibility of a bond, and Mr. Nunemaker is going to come up here and talk about a super SCAP for a school construction assistant program. I just want to say thank you to the community. Be patient with us as we talk through this. Don't jump to conclusions on what we are or are not going to do. It's all conversations right now. And I've heard people say, we're lucky after what we've been through in the past year that we passed a levy, and it's not time to talk about a bond. And when you look at the issues that we have with our facilities, the reason we're really going to start talking about this a lot more is because it's not undoable, but it's hard to go and talk about a bond and a levy in the same year. So 2 years from now, it's going to be time for another levy. So we're thinking it's time to talk about a bond. If we don't do it now, it's going to be 3 years out, and we're going to be even more crowded. So I'm just asking for patience from the community. Let us talk through all the issues. Sometimes the questions we asked we might know the answer to them for the benefit of the community too. So we're open to listening to the community. We want to hear from you on what your priorities are. So feel free to catch up with us, talk to us, send us emails. But what we're going to be doing in the next month or two is all conversations and laying the foundation so that everybody, not just the board, but the community is educated in what the district needs and in the direction that we hope to be going. Thank you.
President Lehrman, I'd just like to remind everyone that Deputy Superintendent Whitney's next community conversation is scheduled for this Friday, March 11th, from 11 o'clock in the morning to 1 in the afternoon at the West Pasco branch of the Mid-Columbia Library.
All right, next we'll move on to reports and discussions. We're going to have an information systems update from Mr. Mark Garrett.
All right, President Lehrman, Assistant Superintendent Thornton, members of the board, I appreciate this opportunity to update you on the Information Systems Department. So here's the organizational chart for the Information Systems Department. We essentially have 3 organizational units. You can see on the right, that's our data systems team. On the left there, we have the workstation technician team, and then kind of through the middle, we have the centralized staff. The data systems group contains 3 programmers, a system analyst, a data analyst, a power school system administrator, and then a data clerk. This group is in charge of managing and customizing our large enterprise applications such as Business Plus, Power School, Homeroom, Student Track, Destiny. They're also in charge of architecting the district's data and developing new software solutions in order to solve business problems and improve processes. In addition to the software duties, they're also responsible for creating reports, import-export operations, and then conducting analyses of data within the systems that they manage. The workstation technicians are organized into 2 teams, East and West, and they're headed by a lead technician. Each team is responsible for about half the buildings in the district. The technicians work off of a ticket queue, and tickets are usually initiated by the help desk or the information systems secretary. Each technician is skilled in desktop management and is also designated as a subject matter expert in additional skill. The two teams are duplicative in their skill set, which enforces redundancy, so we always have coverage regardless of the situation. So lastly, our centralized staff. A lot of them are specialized and work on systems that support our entire network. For example, our systems engineer and technician work together to support our domain and server infrastructure needs. Our server infrastructure is about 240 servers. Our server infrastructure allows the computers throughout the district to join our network and then and get services such as file sharing, printing, accessing all those core business applications that the data systems team manages. This past year, the server team has played a key role in moving our staff and student accounts to Microsoft Office 365, and I'll talk about that on a later slide. So the IT team manages over 14,000 district-owned workstations and mobile devices. Here's a table of the distribution of the workstations throughout our schools. In addition to these desktop and mobile devices listed, we also manage over 7,000 peripheral devices, so projectors, document cameras, classroom speakers, phone, network printers, anything that plugs into a computer or anything that plugs into the network, we have our hands on. So in addition to these district-owned devices, we also see hundreds of personally owned mobile devices accessing the internet through our content-filtered, secure wireless network. So on a typical day, we see about 4,000 to 6,000 students, staff, guests accessing our network with their personal devices. So this year we've worked to further equalize the distribution of devices across the buildings in the district. Toward the beginning of the school year, the district used general funds to purchase additional laptops and also looked at the redistribution of devices among buildings. This effort had two goals. The first, to ensure that all buildings had enough devices to complete online testing in a timely manner. And the second was to achieve more balance in the student-to-device ratio between buildings. Unfortunately, the reallocation portion of the project wasn't feasible, and I'll try to explain it to you using a couple of charts here. So the devices on this first chart are those purchased and supported by general funds. The majority of these are complete desktop or laptop labs, and they can be used for online testing. There are a couple items to notice here. Our STEM schools, you can see, have some of the lowest ratios, so Curie, Franklin, Gray, McClintock. Pretty understandably, they're technology-focused curriculum, so they're going to have more devices. The other thing to notice is that the highest ratios are at our priority buildings, so Chess, Emerson, Robinson, Whittier, which is a little counterintuitive. However, the second chart will kind of help put that into perspective. So the second chart shows the student-to-computer ratio when taking into account all devices within the building, not just those supported through the general fund. Non-general fund devices typically come from special grants or funding sources like CTE, special services, Title, LAP, things like that. The priority schools receive more special programs funds and have invested in additional devices. Special programs money are allocated to those buildings, So at the beginning of the school year, when we were looking at redistributing devices among those buildings, we had to exclude these devices. After excluding these devices, we were left with those general fund supported devices, which no building could afford to give up in order to complete online testing in a timely manner. So instead of reallocation, we had to rely solely on the purchase of additional devices to meet those two goals mentioned earlier, balancing devices and then timely test taking. So as we move forward, we'll continue to focus on equity between our buildings, while also ensuring that each building has enough devices for testing.
Mr. Garrett, can you go to the previous slide before you move too far away?
So you can.
So how do you? Oh, this general fund one. Yeah. How do you read that? So we use general funds to buy, and then how do you do student to device ratio? What is that?
So these are computers that were purchased and are supported by general funds. So this is only a subsect of all the devices in the district.
Okay.
And so these devices are pretty much there for they can be flexible. They're there for regular classroom use, stuff like that.
So is this, if you were just to take the computers and take all of the ones that the buildings bought themselves or that came from other grants, if you took all of those out of the equation and did the average, that's what this is showing. So the next slide, for every school, it goes down. Okay.
Correct.
I see.
Correct.
Thank you.
So we're adding all those devices that were purchased with LAP and Title, special programs, CTE. You can see how big of an impact CTE and special programs makes in the high school there. So those additional funds do provide quite a bit of devices.
So one more question before we move off that. And sorry to interrupt here, but what we saw last week and what we've seen today when we're talking about facilities is that we look at our brick and mortar capacity, which of our schools have the most students over capacity, and it's by far and away, it looked like it was Twain, Livingston, and Angelo. Is the number of students there related to, I mean, and you look at this same thing, they have the most students per computer also. Is that just because we have more students at those schools and we haven't given them the same amount of general funds per student to catch up? We just give a flat general fund number? Is that why that kind of matches up with enrollment?
So basically, what we tried to do, that first priority, making sure that buildings have enough devices to complete online testing. And those usually come in complete labs or cows, computer on wheels. And basically the buildings that received a lot of special programs money, they didn't have a lot of general fund devices. And so we had to purchase some devices for them, but we can't move their special programs monies. But we also, in the same manner, we also purchase devices for, the buildings that don't typically receive a lot of special programs money. I don't know if that makes any sense, but maybe another.
I guess I could rephrase it differently. When a school takes on more students, like Angelo did this past year, do we give them more dollars per student from the general fund to buy devices so that they can bring that number down just because they have more students, or is that not taken into the equation right now?
So right now we have monies to support, and we're budgeting monies to replace all the devices that we've purchased. When we get opportunities to purchase more devices, then we look at that equity issue and the testing issue.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another way to put it, so on this chart, is that these, is those, Angelo, Livingston, Twain, they have more devices that can be used. They have more of those general fund devices, so they aren't dedicated to like interventions and special programs like Project Lead the Way, stuff like that. So they have more flexibility in the use of their devices, while the other buildings just have more devices and more access to the devices. I don't know if that helps at all.
Is one of the reasons that you put, include the teacher count into the student to device ratio, is that because the state calculates it that way?
The teacher, any staff devices are not included in that ratio. So in this table, just that desktop, the student column, those two student columns are calculated or are used to calculate the student computer ratio.
Oh, okay. I wondered because the total includes all of the devices.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
only the students. Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. So we tend to get consumed in our current work and forget where we came from. So we went back and looked 4 years. And in those 4 short years, the district has nearly quadrupled the amount of devices in its environment. And that's an increase of over 10,000 devices. Obviously, this has had a improvement to the student-to-computer ratio we were just talking about. And with an overall student-to-computer ratio at 1.49, we've definitely made dramatic improvement in ensuring that students get regular access to technology. So it's important to realize that it's not just as simple as purchasing more devices, making sure our infrastructure is prepared, especially our wireless network. If you see those little hockey puck kind of big ones there with the blue light, those are wireless access points, and you'll see those all throughout our buildings. Those are all connecting to those 10,000 or 14,000 district-owned devices. Those 4,000 to 6,000 personal devices are connecting. So wireless network, ensuring sufficient and well-trained technical staff to maintain all those devices, and then also ensuring systems and training in place to support our instructional staff are all foundations that you need prior to purchasing those devices. So I mentioned Office 365 and our migration to it, and that was a large project over the summer. Office 365 is a cloud environment, and it improved our student and staff email platform, giving students and staff access to the Office suite on any device with a web browser. Since this platform is hosted, the cost of maintaining and refreshing hardware related to our email system is no longer a burden on the district. Microsoft is putting Office 365 at the core of its service offering. You can kind of see on the top right there, their thoughts is everything it's a gateway, everything passes through it. An example is a recent announcement. They're going to launch a free classroom app that will allow students to communicate and collaborate online via their Office 365 account. So the migration to the Office 365 platform really positioned us to take advantage of that cloud-based future. So the IT team also has been preparing to upgrade to the district's computers to Windows 10 and Office 2016 with over 14,000 devices and 20,000 users. Upgrading an operating system and productivity suite is an extensive operation. In preparation, we've been building our new Windows 10 image, building and testing hundreds of pieces of software packages, writing new group policies. Our approach is to allow an opt-in period for staff to voluntarily upgrade to the new operating system. We've built a tool to help us manage that process and have successfully ran it through our first batch of volunteers. Throughout the next 6 months, we'll gradually open up the opt-in period to more buildings, but our goal is to have 100% migration to Windows 10 and Office 2016 by January of 2017. So we continue to work with FatBeam in planning and implementing our new fiber wide area network, or WAN. Our WAN is a collection of fiber optic cables strung throughout the city of Pasco that connects its buildings, or connects the district's buildings even as far out as Markham. The idea of a WAN is to connect several remote buildings to a central data center, creating more efficient and scalable operations. In this case, the district's data centers are here at the booth, and then our secondary data center at Chiawana. Instead of laying all new fiber, FatBeam has worked with the PUD and will lease space on their fiber network. The PUD still needs to make modifications to its current network to meet our requirements, but we're still on schedule to meet that cutover at the beginning of July. Our WAN will increase our connectivity between our buildings and the data center by 20 times and give the district a resilient, reliable, and scalable infrastructure for its staff and students for the next 10 years. So this year, the IT team has also been working on refreshing its 3-year technology plan. Traditionally, our technology plan has been more infrastructure based because it is closely tied to the federal E-rate program, which I'll talk about here shortly. That connection to the federal E-rate program has been removed, so we're taking a different approach. We're going to use a roadmap format, and this is kind of the Gantt style, where we'll sequentially lay out initiatives for the different disciplines in technology for the next 3 years. So you can see the top 3 elements there, that there's an instructional portion of the roadmap. Megan Nelson and myself have been working with principals, teachers from the Educational Technology Advisory Group, and then also students. We had our first student brainstorming session today to help with the roadmap. So we're going to compile initiatives based on all this feedback for the next 3 years. So that graphic up there is pretty much a representation of what we'd like to produce. When we finalize gathering all the initiatives from our technical team, and then our instructional staff will place them on the timeline in their respective discipline. The benefit of having it laid out, where you can visibly see all the initiatives taking place across the disciplines, is that you can vertically align all your efforts. You can eliminate redundancy, and then you can also adjust the timing of initiatives for those that may be beneficial or synergistic to one another. So Information Systems understands that we're a support and service department. The better service that we provide, the more effective our staff will be. We use a couple different measures, one of them being response and resolution time as a measure of our service. So how quickly are we first addressing the issue, and then how quickly are we solving that issue. We set the goal of keeping our median response and resolution times to under 24 hours. During the beginning of the year, it's a difficult task with a high ticket load, but I'm extremely proud of our team that we've met that goal every month since the beginning of the school year. And to me, it tells me that our team is very aggressive in resolving users' issues. So in addition to response and resolution times, we also collect survey information from our users. So once a ticket is resolved, a one-click, one-question survey is emailed to the user requesting feedback on the quality of service that we provided. Users are asked to rate our performance on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. and they're asked questions related to timeliness, promptness, friendliness. So our goal on this is to keep our average star rating above 4.5 or in the 95th percentile, and we have also done that every month since the beginning of the school year, so we're very proud of that. So because of our district's unique demographics, we're able to take greater advantage of a federal program called E-rate. It reimburses our district for network-related costs. Services supported by E-rate fall into two categories: telecommunications and then infrastructure. Services like the internet and the wide area network connections that I explained earlier, those fall under Category 1. All districts have access to fund Category 1 funds, but the amount of E-rate support that is received is based on your free and reduced meal percentage. In our case, our E-rate discount percentage is 80%, so we pay 20 cents on the dollar for those telecommunication services. We'll receive about $620,000 of funding for Category 1 services this year. Category 2 includes infrastructure equipment, so items like the switches, those wireless access points that I pointed out, the cabling that runs above the ceiling all the way to our switch closet, that's all infrastructure and is covered by Category 2. We've been allocated $2.1 million to use for infrastructure upgrades over the next 5 years. So we just released 2 requests for proposals that will be funded by the 2016-17 Category 2 E-rate cycle. One RFP simply replaces the existing aging switching infrastructure at Chiawana. The other RFP will redesign and refresh our internet edge. This is the equipment and routing that separates our internal network, so that WAN that I talked about, from the internet. So there's kind of a demarcation point there. That's called your internet edge. The RFP requests a solution that will utilize the district's 2 data centers to improve the efficiency of internet traffic to and from our internal network, while also enhancing the district's ability to monitor and respond to modern security threats. This will assist in improving performance and the reliability of our network. So the future of IT is super exciting. To me, we're moving from a time that really focused on building our infrastructure to a time of integration. That's integration of devices instructionally and integration of systems technically. Information Systems is ready and excited to be part of it, and will continue to support our staff throughout the process. That's all I had for you.
So I have some questions, and they all are around Office 365.
Sweet.
My first question was, what students are actually receiving access? Is it just high school students, middle school students, or is it all high school, middle school, and elementary?
So right now, technically everyone has an account, but it's advertised at the high school and middle school levels, and we'll be working in the next year to drop that down into the elementary level. Because there's certain elements of the new standards where they need to learn to communicate digitally. So that will be the platform that we use. So this is really the Office 365 is a platform. You can think about it like that, and we can perform certain tasks on that platform.
Okay. Thank you. My second question was, how are they receiving access? Are you guys giving them an email, or is it something else? Because I have my siblings. They haven't received an email from what I know, so I'm not sure how they would be receiving access And also, well, the third question, you somewhat answered it, was how we're advertising this to the students. I think it would be nice if they all knew that they can get free PowerPoint and Word, because a lot of them end up spending money, or they have to use other alternatives, and it would be nice if they can actually use a real thing.
I agree. So it primarily happens in the students' technology or lab-based classrooms. So to me, this year has been a year of building that platform, refining it, and like I said in the final statement, it's the past 3 years and our past technology plan was all about building infrastructure, and now it's about integrating and using that. So that's why I'm super excited. I'm super excited about Office 365, and for the exact reasons that you mentioned. That's free, the complete free suite, the online collaboration, communication.
So as of right now, if a student wanted Office 365, they could just talk to their tech teacher and they would provide some type of login? Or?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Along those same lines, you were talking about 365 and then Office 2016 as well?
Correct.
Why the two?
So we basically, Office 2016 is the client version, and that just means the version that's installed on your computers, and then Office 365 is the web-based version. So you could use Office 365 on an iPad. So it's web-based. So it basically marries the two, and that's one of the reasons why we're moving to Office 2016, is it has tighter integration with Office 365. So ideally what you don't want someone to know, am I working on a document locally, or am I working on the document in the cloud? We want that tight integration, and so that's what we're working towards. And with Office 2016 on-premise installed on the computers and Office 365, we can begin working towards that.
Do you need both? I'm not understanding why you would need both. If you have 365, why do you need a local copy?
You technically you don't, but to us, our subscription, the Office 365 is free. It's free to education. So it's not just Microsoft Office, it's also the email that it provides. And we also, Office 365, you get online storage. So there's a balance between keeping things local, you can control it, whereas getting things up in the cloud.
So we don't pay anything for 365?
No, we don't. No, it's free.
Just the support?
Well, it's free through the large check we write through Microsoft every year. So
yeah.
So I'm not the most computer literate person on earth, so some of this stuff went over my head, but help me understand a little bit more.
Sure.
So is the 2016 something that's like loaded onto your computer, and the 365 allows the kids to do it at school and then take that work home and use it on their home computers?
So when you log in to your email, like for the district's website, that's Office 365. And if you go to the top left, there's some tiles. If you click on that, you'll see a bunch of options, Word, Excel, things like that. So that's basically the internet-based version of Office. So you have Office 365. And yeah, did that answer your question?
So say my kids are working on something at school, and then they come home.
Yep.
Are they working always on Office? Say they're working on the library and then they come home. Are they working all the time in Office 365, or at school are they working in Office 2016?
They are, so at school they're working on a computer, and all their files are pretty much stored either on our servers or on a computer. But the idea and the vision, Office 365, is that anytime, anywhere access. So I was mentioning that we don't want We don't want people to care about, oh, I can do this on my school computer and then I can do this on my home computer. We want that experience to be the same, and that's what Office 365 brings. It lets you basically, wherever you have an internet connection, access and work. So that's the vision, and I think you're hitting on that.
So no more my kids losing their thumb drives, right? Is that what we're
Yes.
getting at?
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
So they have, they can do that now. Yeah, they have OneDrive and they can dump it into their OneDrive. It's just online file storage. So.
Okay.
There's also another cool thing about Office 365, because I've been using it now. I noticed that I could download it. I could use it with my district email. Because of Office 365, I didn't have to purchase Office alone. I could just download the software, I guess the programs to my computer, and I don't even need to be connected to the internet. So you can always use that offline. It's not just cloud-based, but
So that's the Office 2016 coming into play. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a little different though. It's not Office 2016. It's Office 365. You can still download it on your computer, and it's connected to your email, which is connected to Office 365 online cloud-based stuff. So it's an awesome thing. I appreciate that because it's saving me money. It's going to save a lot of other students money, and our students are going to start learning how to use Office really fast. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett, for your presentation. I just had 2 quick questions. So a problem that we have in our school, especially with substitute teachers, they come in and they might not know how to run some of the technology that is present in the classroom. Is there anything that the technology supports that's education for the teachers to know how to use the technology properly?
I'd say that might be something that we can work on with the Educational Technology Advisory Group. So that's the Educational Technology Advisory Group. That's a group of teachers, basically the technology teachers from each building, and and they design the trainings that are offered. But yeah, and it is hard to get those infrequent users like the substitutes up to snuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
But I agree.
And also, I understand a lot of these filters that we have on our school internet. One that I guess a lot of students have brought up to me was blocking PowerSchool and like the app PowerSchool and Edmodo. Is that something that you can do? Is unblock those apps from those school Wi-Fi's?
That should be the case. Yeah, PowerSchool and the and the Edmodo should.
Yeah, they'll work on like a desktop or like if you go through the district website and do that, but on the apps they won't run. So I don't know if that was something that
we'll look into that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I have a couple of comments and unrelated. I know we have a lot to do today, but I want to understand this too. First of all, I love your ticketing system and your response and your work to get 4 and 5 stars. And I think that's critical within any organization that we serve those that we're working for well. Whether it be teachers or paraeducators or whoever. And so kudos to your work there. That's incredible, and I just appreciate that. Also, the district count. For the last 4 years, the district has done a phenomenal job getting those counts and those student to computer ratios much better. And to that effect, that's one thing we've heard from the teachers and the principals that they would love more of is computers. And I look at this 1.5 and think there's, 1-to-1 would be fantastic. But 1.5, when the teachers are complaining, they usually are talking about like a 3-to-1 ratio. So can you tell me where the disconnect is? Because if we have about 1.5 and we still have teachers and principals wanting more, where is that disconnect?
I think when you think about 1.5, you're still, for a class of 30, that's still, 20 20 machines. But also, kind of what we were talking about earlier is there's a chunk of those that that have a specific purpose. Maybe they're for an intervention, or maybe they're a CTE classroom that's all they do is computer literacy. So it might not seem like that at times, but I mean it's come up in talking to the both the principals and the teachers that devices. So it is, yeah.
I had the same thought, essentially as Ms. Phillips asked, and it seems like maybe some of the issue is the disparity between some of the schools, and the issue, when I look at the ratio, I think of the whole school, right? Like, so Franklin's 1-to-1, I'm like, there should never be an issue there. I mean, there's essentially a device for every student. You can test the entire school at the same time. Correct. And so to me, it seems like there should be enough that if we have more flexibility in the distribution, like it shouldn't be that there's just 20 devices assigned to a class permanently, but that if they can be moved around a little bit more, that way you could have your entire class on a device, but because not every class needs to have every student on a device at the same time. So I don't know if we can increase the flexibility of the devices to say all second graders at the same time could have a device. Do you know what I mean? Because the fifth graders don't need their device right now, and then you would have.
And that's the way it works. I don't know if you've when you visited our buildings, if you've seen the laptop carts, the computer on wheels, you'll hear them referred to as cows. So they're all mobile, and then the building administration decides how they're going to divide those up between the classrooms. So, and it's rare that I hear that a particular cow is assigned to only one room.
Okay, my concern also has to do with the filtering in elementary school. I have a concern about that as we get all these devices, and I've had my own kids tell me things that they looked at school that were I didn't necessarily approve of, and so I'm not sure what are the protocols right now or how strong the filtering is, but not infrequently they've shared things that I'm like, wow, you were spending time on that at school. So what's kind of the current policy on filtering?
So we block everything that's obscene and pornographic, violent, and what we do is we use a service. So they crowdsource these, or they go out and they review these websites, and then they put them into buckets. So, for example, we'll block certain gaming. We block a gaming category, not just particular sites. We'll block gambling, a category, not just particular sites. So, by and large, we take a huge chunk of the internet out just by blocking those certain sectors. But then as we hear of certain websites or things like that that either haven't been evaluated by this system or they're getting past the system, then we can block those individually.
So how do we share that? Does someone contact their teacher, their principal, or if the parent has a concern
help
about
desk, that's usually reported to the help desk.
Well, how does the parent do that though? Would a parent know how to access the help desk to report?
No, that would probably, if a parent's reporting it, then best bet is to report that to your building.
This is the last thing. I need to understand so we know where to focus our resources. Can you go back to that computer distribution chart? When I look at this distribution chart, I see 4, maybe 5 real outliers, the actual numbers. So I look at this and I go, Angelo's at 2.4 outlier, Livingston's at 2.4 outlier, you got Twain at 2.4 outlier. You could also put in, who else was there? Frost at 2.34 outlier. And you could maybe throw McGee in there. When I go down and look at your plot numbers, so your bar graph there, it doesn't show up that way. Go to the next one. I mean, I guess 1, 2, 3. Okay, that next one. Yeah, I guess you can see the outliers there, 4 and maybe McGee there. So are those the places where are we looking into getting more grants or more money there or general fund next year to bring down, you know, those 4, 5, 6 schools that are way behind the rest of the schools?
And I guess it goes back to what I said. Whenever we have opportunities to buy more devices, then yes. And you'll see that in the technology plan. Pegging ourselves to computer to student to computer ratio, it's good. But we always have to keep in mind, so our STEM schools, they're going to have more technology.
Yeah. I'm just saying I want to focus on this versus 1.5 across the district. That doesn't really mean anything to the kids who are at the schools or the teachers who are there and don't have the resources. 1.5 average doesn't mean as much as this plot, I think, when we're allocating resources and trying to strive for equity. I just hope we continue to focus on getting this more equal across the board. So thank you for your efforts in that.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. And next, we're moving on to the asset preservation report. Mr. Randy Nunemaker.
Board President, Mr. Lerman, Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Thornton. Tonight we'll be providing the 2016 version of the Asset Preservation Report. First, I'd like to go into a little background on the report. The Asset Preservation Program was established by the state of Washington in 2009 to encourage facility maintenance of state-assisted projects. The state requirement for accessing state funds on future projects for approved buildings requires this program. To kind of put that in perspective, the requirement really is that if we receive state matching funds on a project, for example, Franklin, Curie, McClintock, then we have to place that on the asset preservation program, and then we need to monitor maintenance on that facility. Monitoring maintenance on that facility means that there's a certified inspector that goes out and scores that facility, and then we come in every year and we report that information to the board. That allows the state, if we comply with that, then in the future we can access state matching funds if we need to do a modernization to that building. So what was required for that program is in 2010, a board resolution was adopted, established policies and procedures, and then there was an asset preservation system. Part of that asset preservation system included a building condition evaluation that we'll look at in a few minutes. Then also accountability, and part of that accountability, as I mentioned, is an annual report to the board. This is the 6th annual report to the board at this time. So we'll be reporting to OSBI also. And then again, this makes sure that we can access state construction funding eligibility in the future for these facilities. So the asset preservation rule and implementation timeline, again, started in 2009. Board resolution was to be adopted for 1995 buildings by June 30th, 2010. And then a system adopted by January 1st, 2011, and then reported prior to April 1st in 2011. And Pasco School District was one of the first districts in the state to meet that requirement. You'll note that the program mentions 1995 facilities. That's the date that they started the program. So buildings that were constructed prior to that received state matching funds would not be on the program. Only after that. So that takes us to probably the most important slide is the asset preservation program scores. You'll see a building condition summary. And I think the best way I can describe this is that the scoring mechanism that OSBI uses is that for a new building would score 100. as it's brand new. It meets all the current codes and compliances. All the systems are functional, they're new, and the building can be expected to have a long life. However, as the building ages, OSPI has that score is reduced to match the age of the building. So they have established a score that they would expect to see at any certain given time. So, for example, we'll start with Emerson. Emerson is 19 years old. The OSPI draft score by age that would be expected would be 79. In 2014, the building condition evaluation that was conducted by a certified evaluator scored an 86.94, actually went up a point in 2015 to 87.94, and in 2016 remained at that score. You can continue with that on down, as you can see, Robert Frost, Pasco High School, Chiawana High School, and of course, as we talked about, a new building, Franklin, scored 100. One of the questions that may be asked is, how does the score go up, for example, at Emerson? Usually that means that there's a major component of that building that was improved. For example, if the interior of the building was painted, or carpet was replaced throughout the building, or a new boiler was installed, then they'll take a look at that component, will receive a higher score, and thus be reflected on that next year's score. Another change to this that we won't see in the future, but I put it on for this time because we'd reported on it before, was Pasco High School. Pasco High School, 63 years old. It was placed on the Asset Preservation Program list by OSPI when they started the program, and we reported on it in 2011. It actually does not meet the OSPI requirements for an asset preservation building because of age, and also because it doesn't meet the square foot requirements for the modernization that we've done there to be on the program, so it doesn't have to be monitored. Best example I can give of one of the requirements for that for Pasco High School is we have the 5 science classrooms that are going to be added this year. We'll receive state matching funds for those, but that does not meet the square foot requirements to put the whole building under the asset preservation program. So it does not need to meet those requirements at this time.
Why did they put that? Why did the state put Pasco on there?
I can't answer that question. I can find out from them, but it was placed on it right at the beginning. So we've been reporting on it annually throughout, but it does not meet the requirements. Our Eastern Regional representative suggested we remove it because it doesn't meet the requirements.
Are we doing these evaluations ourselves?
No, as I mentioned, they're certified evaluators that have to come out. So what we did when we started the program, we could evaluate the buildings ourselves, except for that 6-year period when we have to report to OSPI. However, we decided not to do that. Every year we've actually had a certified inspector come out, and they've evaluated the building. And to the point that when the score is reported to OSPI, the evaluator has to enter that information into OSPI's website. The district can't do that. So that is a protected score, if you will, that comes directly from that certified evaluator. In the past, we had used an architectural and engineering firm, Meyer Enterprises. It's interesting that this year we went ahead and used Design West, a different certified evaluator, and you can see how tight the scores came out on the next year with a different evaluator. So yeah, we don't do our own scores.
Can we hire those evaluators to look at some of our schools where we might be being told and we're not sure as a board their exact condition, and would that be a valid assessment for us making decisions?
Yeah, I think it would. I don't think it encompasses everything, because in any given evaluation, when you look at the scope of what they're looking at, there is room for variation between evaluator to evaluator. That's why it's nice to get somebody else in from time to time, so you change that. However, that being said, the answer is yes. Mr. McCoskey at a future board meeting here in the next month or so will be presenting the maintenance and custodial update. Part of that maintenance and custodial update, he'll be reporting these scores by the certified evaluator on the balance of the buildings in the district.
And how long does it take to do an evaluation? How many days is it? Is it just days or weeks?
It's days.
Okay.
It is days. Like I say, it takes a while to walk the buildings. That's the biggest part of it. They usually walk with a facilities person who will allow them to get into mechanical rooms and areas that normally you wouldn't be able to get into, so they can evaluate the systems also.
Yeah, I would second that opinion from President Lehrman. As far as especially our older buildings, to me it's valuable to have the Pasco High information. It's over 60 years old. Some of these older, Livingston, and Stevens, we've heard a lot about. Maybe those buildings that are older that we're looking at that they're constantly in renovation, or that we're going to consider that the task force has suggested replacing. Maybe those ones specifically could have multiple evaluations that we could compare. Whereas maybe the other, Franklin, probably we don't need to hire 3 different people to go compare that, but some of those older ones, maybe that would be valid to have multiple evaluators give us information.
Sure. Yeah, we can look into that. So any other questions on the asset preservation program? Okay, thank you.
All right. Next, we have K-3 class size reduction grant updates from Mr. Randy Nonmaker.
Thank you, Board President Mr. Lehrman, Assistant Superintendent Ms. Thornton, board members. Now the Class 3 class size reduction grant update. The K-3 class size reduction grant, AKA Super SCAP, if you will. Oops, did I go back one?
Nope. Good. Just get full size.
Oh, there you go. The has been called Super SCAP. It's a $200 million competitive grant that was put out by the state of Washington. The intent of that grant was to make progress towards meeting the K-3 class size reduction rates. As we talked a little bit earlier, that gets down to 17 students in a classroom by 2017-18, and includes all-day K. You can see that the state of Washington ranks the applicants in priority order. You see the columns 1 through 4 there. Oops, did I go one back? Make sure I'm using this. Let me get on here. I think I skipped one. I think we hit one. There we go. So the state ranks the applicants in priority order, and this is the scores they use, 1 through 4. My understanding, the way the applicants are going to be judged on this is all the applicants that meet the priority number 1 that you see, they'll all be grouped first to be considered for this grant. Then after that, for further reduction, then they'll go to the number 2, then to the number 3, and then finally to number 4, till they have the grant has been satisfied. So the application process in November of 2015, the district submitted its grant application. In December of 2015, WSU came out to take information and verify the classroom counts that the district came up with. Our count was 41. When WSU verified, they came up with a quantity of 39 classrooms that would be needed to meet the K-3 class size reduction. Right now, OSPI is currently reviewing application, and the requests are actually exceeding the allocation. The last numbers I had were there was 90 requests. The amount of those 90 requests was over $400 million. So obviously not everybody's going to get a grant, but there's definitely a need there. Pasco School District is estimated to be in the top 30% of the applicants. Originally, the notification was to be after March the 1st. That has been changed to be March the 21st now. Once that decision's been made, if Pasco School District was to receive the grant, districts have 30 days to submit financial certification and other required information to OSBI if they wish to obtain those funds. Local match would be required on 4% on eligible costs and 100% on non-eligible costs. Again, the district would have 30 days to commit to providing the funds, and local funds must be expended first before the grant funds. So, use of grant funds, how can we use that? The funds can be used to build a new permanent building, to add on to an existing building. You can build a modular permanent foundation. No portables can be considered. You can construct classrooms at one level to move grades and create K-3 space. The example used by OSBI is you could use funds to add on, say, to a middle school, move 6th grade up to that middle school, opening up classrooms for K-3. District may use funds to purchase a building and then use grant funds to modernize that facility as long as it makes progress towards the K-3 reduction. Again, all these options must make progress towards the class size reduction. So more news coming out of Olympia for the award of the grant. OSBI is expected to first fully fund the first priority, as I mentioned before, which is the high ratio of needed classrooms. Another conversation that's going on right now in the legislature is the award may depend on how quickly a district can begin and complete the project. And again, grant funds may be used to renovate a building purchased by the district if the project increases K-3 capacity. An example of a project like that would be the district could purchase, I know the senior center has been a topic of discussion. The district could purchase a senior center and then use the grant funds to modernize that building and move the pre-K into that building, opening up classroom space in existing buildings for K-3 class size reduction. The district will need a rapid board decision on this, the acceptance of the grant, and if an award is granted, where to build that. If a full award is received, options include locating a school on the west side of Pasco and adding classrooms by relocating pre-K to another facility, or to Curie STEM Elementary on the east side. So, for discussion, some possible west side locations, this is kind of a glimpse of the district. Current district sites are posted in red. Those are where our current buildings are. And the locations in blue, that's where the district currently already owns property at. You can see this is the east side property that was just recently purchased. This would be the property at Road 48 and 52. This would be at Road 84 just above Chiawana. Then we have 20 acres that sits right next to Franklin Elementary School. And then here we have 40 acres that was purchased with the intent of using it for a future middle school. So the Road 84 site, we tried to come up with some pros and cons, not intended to be all that could be considered, but Road 84 can create capacity at multiple sites. It's near new large developments, central location among crowded schools, transportation and walking access. You can see the large complex that's right next to the school property, and may handle future growth. Cons, it's fairly close to Livingston Elementary School, and it would require boundary changes. Another site that the district considered, Road 52 and Power Line. This is the 20 acres that sits just to the west of Franklin Elementary School. The pros for this, it could partner school with Franklin, something similar to Curie and Whittier. Near new large developments. Could create capacity at multiple sites, and there would be walking access. Cons, we will need to build a county road between the property. This property only has a face right now on Power Line Road. So the county would, and it is county, we would have to build a county road to separate the two facilities. Boundary changes again would have to take place. And it is very close to Franklin and McClintock.
Do we fit the bill for that road, or does the county?
We would.
What utilities are available in that county property? Do you have to do septic, or does it have sewer and water?
My understanding, there is access to sewer there. And there's access not on the property itself, but through the utilities that the city's provided. We'd have to hook into the city sewer system and the water system.
And there's city water.
Road 48 and 52. You can see the site right here. It creates capacity at multiple sites again. Cons is it's fairly near to Mark Twain. And the line you see right here, this gap here, that is property easement from the Corps of Engineers. So we would not have access to that property, so somewhat the site is somewhat limited in what we could do with it. There's no access frontage on Court Street. We would be required, this is county again, so we'd be required to come from Court Street to provide utilities for it. And again, that would be at the district's cost. It is not near large developments. And again, it would result in boundary changes. One of the district looked at these properties. Probably the property that makes the most sense right now to us would be the 84 property, as it can impact that high growth area out on the west side. But again, that's something that the board would have to consider future and if we were to get that grant. So next steps. First, before we get to do anything, we have to get a notice from the state. Some board decisions that will need to be made. Will the district accept the award if it's offered? If the award is sufficient to build a school, where will the school be built? So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Say we chose to build a middle school with it. And if they're providing 39 classrooms, we probably wouldn't have enough money for the middle school. And so is that not even a possibility because we need to execute this so quickly that we need to just use it for an elementary school? Or or could we say, you know, they're giving us $30 million, we need 48 for a middle school, and put half that on the bond? Or would it have to be utilized?
I think the intent from the legislature is that this happens quickly. So I really doubt that at this time would be a question we'd have to ask. But with the speed they want to move, I don't think they'd want us to hold on to the money till we passed a bond.
Okay.
And that would be contingent upon passing a bond then. So.
I think to answer the first question for the district, I'd say a resounding yes. Probably we'd all agree to that. And building another elementary school seems like the most practical. I'd like to see us collect some sort of, provide this information. You know, there's only a handful of people here, and I don't know how many will watch on YouTube, but make sure that this becomes public very quickly so that everyone in our community is aware of exactly what is going on here, so that we can start gathering input and provide this information, you know, to the community and see what the feeling would be in general. It looks like we're in good shape because of our need, and also because we have these locations, right? Where essentially we would just have a spot already. We don't have to go purchase more property. We could just literally just go and build an elementary school if they provide sufficient funds for that. But I'd like to see something done quickly that we can get that out so people are aware that in the next few weeks we will likely find this information out. And if so, these are possibilities. What are the ideas of the community on that?
So I think the idea behind the community forum, we're going to have, you're going to post it for the 31st, is that right? We're leaving it open right now. The topic is to be determined. We may just have open forum, but if this did happen, on the 21st. You know, it'd be like Pasco winning the lottery here. We need to make decisions fairly quickly. So we would probably end up making that community forum a discussion, and I'll talk to Miss Whitney, and we'll try to get all the information we can together. Miss Flynn would probably cringe if I said maybe we can get some quick boundary scenarios together. Maybe someone else volunteers. Boundary scenarios together so that I fully trust what you're saying right now is probably, to me, it sounds like a good idea. We're talking about Angelo, Twain, and Livingston are really crowded. Putting it up on 84 could draw from all three, but we might look ahead at the boundary scenarios. So that's why I'm saying everything's going to be pretty fluid in the next month or so, and we might have a big win to celebrate, but we'll continue to look and plan ahead.
What are our most crowded? And I think it would also alleviate Franklin, because there's on this side of Road 68, I believe they take in that apartment building from Franklin, and that could help alleviate all of those schools with this. But what are our most overcrowded? Do you know that? Because I know Angelo's our most overcrowded elementary school. What's our second after that? Do you know?
I think Twain's in there too.
We looked at it last week. If we looked at brick and mortar versus actual students, Twain was actually number one, 300 plus students over, and I think Angelo and Livingston were both 200 and some over. So
that's
those
our
three,
most crowded.
if you look at around the district, all three of those are the most overcrowded, and the Road 84 is
that makes
could pull
almost
from
makes
all three. So we'll do more research on it, but first blush is that's a good recommendation.
Exactly. It almost makes it a no-brainer when those are our three most crowded elementary schools, and it can impact 4.
So the big unknown is what is going to come out of OSPI. That's why it's tough to get everybody's hopes built up, and then who knows what it'll finally be. So I think however we approach this, we need to approach it with a little caution that this isn't a done deal, because it could change, or I shouldn't say could change, but it's not been defined yet. It looks good. I think it makes sense to build an elementary school right now. That's where the pressure is, because we've got 6th grade in the elementary, and we've got a place for it, and it seems to be ideally located for the schools that are the most crowded. So I think we need to have that discussion, but we've got to be pretty cautious going forward that we don't get people too excited about something that could be pulled out from under us pretty quickly.
Sure, I think
Relying on the government for.
I think the number of applicants says that there was a lot of need out there, and exactly we don't know yet for sure. One thing to consider, I think, too, is if we were to receive the grant in full and we received the 39 classrooms worth, then keep in mind the board doesn't have to use that towards one project. That can actually be split. An example would be, again, I use the senior center. If you wanted to break off 9 classrooms and put that into modernizing the senior center, you could do that and still build a 30 classroom school. Or if you wanted to add classrooms onto Curie, you could add classrooms onto Curie and still build a school if that's what you wanted to do. So you're not locked into one building and that's all you can do.
Thank you, Mr. Nonamaker. Next, we have action items.
Oh, okay, Mark, where am I at here? There we go.
Yeah. This is, Ms. Thornton says, the Randy Nonamaker show here. We'll have you continue to stand up there and keep going.
Thank you. Well, Board President, Mr. Lehrman, Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Thornton, and board members, tonight I'm going to bring forward 2 resolutions. The first is Resolution 920, which is requesting approval for accepting the Pasco School District Bus Barn parking lot expansion as final and complete. The project included paving 2 acres, providing electrical for lighting and for block heaters for the bus, and for fencing. Acceptance by the board initiates the final process to release the contractor's retainage and bond. So at this time, the district would recommend approval of Resolution 920.
So I remember we toured this months ago. What did it added? How many extra did it add extra workspace for the mechanics as well, or
No, this
not?
is just
one
the
not?
parking lot. This
Okay,
was just,
parking lot only.
we ran out of parking spaces.
Okay.
We had 131 spaces and roughly 140 buses that needed to fit. We expanded that parking lot by 2 acres, added about 61 spaces for that. So right now, of course, depending on growth again and what that means, we're estimating probably 5 years to 10 years, depending on growth, that'll save us.
The new bus bays and the new covered parking, when does that come into play, or is that already done?
That has not been done. That would be a part of, that was a recommendation from the Pasco Facilities Task Force to be on the next bond.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll open it up for a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 920, accepting the bus barn expansion project as final and complete.
I second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve Resolution 920, accepting the bus barn expansion project as final and complete. Ms. Smith, will you call the roll, please?
Dr. Richardson?
Yes.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Lehrman?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
All right, next we have a motion regarding the Barbara McClintock STEM Elementary School project. I'll let Ms. Thornton give a little, we took action on this at the last board meeting, so she can give some further explanation of this action here.
Sure, President Lehrman, board members. This was actually a resolution that the board approved at the last board meeting. Excuse me. There was an error on the resolution and in some of the material that was provided to the board. So we're asking the board tonight to rescind Resolution 918 and replace it by approving Resolution 921, accepting the commissioning report for McClintock and approving the project as final and complete.
So we will open it up here for discussion. I would put on the table that whoever makes a motion, if you would like to approve this resolution, you can add to the words that we want to rescind the previous resolution, Resolution 918. Any discussion? Open it up for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve Resolution 921 and rescind 918, accepting the commissioning report of Barbara McClintock STEM Elementary School project and accepting the Barbara McClintock STEM Elementary School project as final and complete.
Second it.
Well, there's a motion and a second to approve Resolution 921 and rescind Resolution 918. Resolution 921 will accept the commissioning report from Barbara McClintock STEM Elementary School project and accepting the Barbara McClintock STEM Elementary School project as final and complete. Ms. Smith, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Dr. Richardson?
Yes.
Mr. Lehrman?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Nunemaker.
Thank you.
Next, we have the consent agenda. It contains personnel, warrant approval, second reading, policy 3313, use of restraint or isolation with students. We have out-of-state overnight student travel for the Chiawana High School Distributive Education Clubs of America, or DECA, to the International Career Development Leadership Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. We have overnight student travel for the McLaughlin Middle School Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, FCCLA, to the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America State Conference and Competition in Wenatchee, Washington. We have overnight student travel for the Chiawana High School Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs, or GEAR Up, to Western Washington College's tour in Seattle, Washington. We have overnight student travel for the Chiawana High School Speech and Debate Club to the State Debate Tournament in Spokane, Washington. Overnight student travel for Delta High School Speech and Debate Club to the State Speech Tournament in Tacoma, Washington. Overnight student travel for Pasco High School, gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs. Gear Up to the Western Washington Colleges tour in Seattle, Washington. Overnight student travel for Pasco High School Speech and Debate Club to State Debate Tournament in Spokane, Washington. And finally, overnight student travel for Chiawana High School's Key Club to the District Convention in Seattle, Washington. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, open it up for motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved as amended. Next, we have future agenda items.
President Lehrman, future agenda items on the meeting on March 22nd, Ms. Hay will be providing the affirmative action plan update. I'll be scheduled to provide the board with an update on the public records program. We are hoping to provide you with an action item on the resolutions for K-3 class size reduction grant if we get good news from the state. We'll also be bringing the capital facilities plan update to you for approval and action.
Okay, and how long is executive session?
The executive session this evening will be approximately 45 minutes, and we expect no action to be taken.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned, and hopefully on our next meeting on the 22nd, we have some news to celebrate. We're not holding our breaths, but if you guys show up and we do win, we'll have a little celebration. Thank you.
So thanks to you diehards for sticking around. And thanks to our cameraman for making it public.